Hey, everybody. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Hi, James. Thanks for joining me. Thank you for joining Moment of Clarity. Please take a second to share this, let people know. If you donate in the super chat, it'll go to people who are struggling. And yeah, let's get to it. Make sure the rock fins are running. I'm also at rockfin.com/Lee Camp. Anyway, I want to talk about a couple of stories. Kind of a couple of stories, both media related, all media related, how our media is garbage. But sometimes you need those examples. You need the examples of exactly how our media is being garbage today. Because, each day comes with a new flavor, a new brand, a new color, a new trend. Oh, that's interesting. They're being garbage in mauve today. That's exciting. Because the other day was chartreuse. And today it's a whole new hue of garbage. So anyway, I want to talk about the mainstream media response to the new revelations, which I covered in the last Redacted tonight, of the U.S. attempt, or at least planning, to assassinate Julian Assange or kidnap him. I want to talk about the mainstream media response to that. But first, I thought in my brief little research here as to what the mainstream media has been doing past couple of days, I thought, why not look at Fox News' Twitter account? Let's see what they're up to. Maybe they're covering something important. And so I thought, let's go over to, because and here's the thing. I know all of you guys get it. If you've even watched 2 seconds of anything that is slightly for adults, slightly adult content at all, then Fox News is a shitstorm of tremendous proportions, of Mike Pompeo proportions, extra large shitstorm. So this won't surprise you, but I still am sometimes shocked at just how terrible they are. It's really kind of impressive. So I went over to Fox News's Twitter account just now, and let's see. I'll show this to you. Here we go. They've only got a mere 20 million followers. And what are they reporting on for their 20 million followers? Well, first story, Eagles Dallas Goedert is placed on reserve because of COVID-19. Not a very important story, and also not a news story. That's just a sports story. Okay, that's what they got. That's what's happened in the world in the past half hour. That is breaking news at Fox. All right, go down to the next story. Kevin Federline's lawyer says Britney Spears' conservatorship won't affect their kids' custody agreement. You may find that interesting. Still not news. Not news at all. That doesn't belong on a news channel even remotely. Britney Spears having her fucking life taken from her by her father is bizarre. It's a bizarre story, and it's something you should read in People magazine because it's fucked up, and it's the patriarchy deciding to control a woman, and it's insane that the courts have allowed it for this long. An adult woman, I remind you, she's not 16 anymore, right? She's like fucking 38, going on 900. But anyway, it's a bizarre story and something you should read in People magazine. Not news, though. The Kevin Federline's lawyer, what the fuck? No, not news. All right, let's go down to the third story. I'm sure they're gearing up for the big, important news. Third story here, Halloween face paint tips to help protect your child's sensitive skin. Yeah, breaking news. Meanwhile, during your kid's sensitive face paint skin time, fucking people around the world are catching on fire because of climate change. People around the world are starving because we fucking won't even help them. Where the rich countries won't help the poor countries. We just extract the resources. We throw away 40% of all food. People are starving around the world, dying from preventable diseases. And but what about the makeup with the sensitive skin, though? What about her skin turns red when she gets the pumpkin paint? Are you fucking serious? Again, I'm not saying you can't read that article, but read it in like Kitty Time magazine or something. What to do with your toddlers when you got extra time. Don't put it on a fucking news channel if you want to pretend to be a news channel. And it says it right there in your name, Fox News. It says news, you assholes. All right, let's try one more. I'll give him one more story to say something that's globally important. Dolly Parton says she uses, I swear to God, this is the next story. Dolly Parton says she uses Pond's cold cream and these other beauty brands. Holy flying shit. Not only is that not a story, not news, but it's also clearly an ad for fucking Pond's cream. That, like, you couldn't be more obvious if you had said in the title, Dolly Parton uses Pond's cream and they paid us to say this. Like, clearly they have some kind of deal with this product. You don't write a story like that unless you do. So those are the top 4 stories on Fox's Twitter account. Those are the ones that they were like, listen, our 20 million followers need to know this shit and they need to know it now. We got to listen. Folks, get your heads in the game. We got to get this shit out there. We got to let them know what's happening. We got 20 million people across the world and everybody they share it with. So millions upon millions that need to know this information or else shit's going to get bad. It's going to get bad out there. Okay. Unless we find out how Dolly Parton keeps her youthful looks right now. I mean, it's just amazing that they continue to have news in their name. I mean, just fucking rename it. Fox Playtime Silly House. Just honestly, I would never have to mention them again if you just renamed it Fox's Silly Time Playhouse or Play Silly Time House or whatever I said. And then we got Tucker Carlson, the fascist. I mean, I had that in the name just so people know. It's Fox's Playtime Silly House followed by fascism. Followed by some racist content. We will. That's their next article, probably on their Twitter. Is turns out blackface keeps your skin smooth. Wearing blackface at least 2 times a week helps with Amos and Andy's youthful looks. Helps with Trudeau's youthful looks and Governor Northam's youthful looks. It's because they wore blackface on a regular basis. Thank you, Fox News. But speaking of media, let's go beyond Fox News. And I don't need to spend much time on the details of it. I think you already know them. And on top of that, I just covered it in Redacted tonight. But a new Yahoo News article came out, deeply investigated, although it had a lot of garbage in there too. So, but anyway, an intense, extensive expose in Yahoo News about basically confirming that under the Trump administration and Pompeo, when he was head of the CIA, they had put together plans to kidnap and or assassinate Julian Assange. I assume if they assassinate him first, they would not then follow that up with the kidnapping. If you're gonna do the and part, I assume you have to do the kidnapping because otherwise you're kidnapping a dead person, which is a weird thing to do. So I'm assuming if they assassinate him, that would not be followed by a kidnapping. Anyway, so we now have confirmation of that. The Yahoo News article also had a bunch of stuff that was completely false, like, you know, I don't know, it fed into Russiagate and all kinds of shit. But that aside, the reason we know these plans to assassinate Assange are true is because other more legitimate outlets than Yahoo News have covered it, such as the Gray Zone, Consortium News. It's very clear that the U.S. government was planning to kidnap or assassinate Julian Assange. And anyway, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting has a great article. They usually do great work. They have an article on how silent the mainstream media has been on this topic, on the fact that another mainstream outlet, Yahoo News, has covered the fact that the Trump administration was planning to assassinate a fucking journalist while he was on sovereign Ecuadorian territory, which is what the Ecuadorian embassy is in London, because anywhere an embassy is considered sovereign territory of that country. So going into breaking international law on multiple levels and murdering a journalist, that was planned by our CIA. And that seems like pretty big news, even for the mainstream media. Now, I get they despise Assange, but this is verifiable news that it seems like they may want to touch on, may want to give it a mention. But so then the Fairness and Accuracy and Reporting article gets into the ghoulish indifference. It would seem that the covert plans for a state-sanctioned murder on British soil, of an award-winning journalist should attract sustained wall-to-wall media coverage. The news, however, has been met by Western establishment media with ghoulish indifference, a damning indictment of an industry that feverishly condemns attacks on press freedom in official enemy states. BBC News, and what they mean by that is whenever we consider a country an official enemy like Russia or Iran or China, because we're fucking belligerent assholes. Whenever we do that, we then point to all of them and go, they don't cover important stories. They don't have good news. There's not good press there. Meanwhile, here we are with a bombshell story not mentioned in our mainstream media. BBC News, one of the most read news outlets in the world, appears to have covered the story just once in the Somali language section of the BBC website, which is amazing. That's the one place that BBC has mentioned the assassination attempt or kidnapping attempt on a award-winning journalist by the United States. Neither the New York Times or the Washington Post, two of the world's leading corporate news organizations, have published any articles about Assange since July, meaning they have completely ignored one of the biggest updates in the Assange story to date. And here's the other thing is Assange's final extradition hearing is coming up soon, and Biden could make Assange a free man right now by simply stopping the appeal. All he'd have to do is tell the Justice Department, stop the appeal, trying to extradite Assange, which would be the same policy under Obama. Obama didn't seek to extradite Assange. Now, he did look into various ways, probably of killing him or or kidnapping him. But under Obama, the FBI used a whole completely fraudulent sting operation, etc. So I'm not letting Obama off the hook, but I'm saying all Biden would have to do to free Assange is go back to the policy that went on under Obama, which was not to prosecute him because he's a journalist. He's a fucking journalist. He's a publisher. Then Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting says, to its credit, since the story first broke on September 26th, The Guardian has reported twice on it. But to offer perspective, during the week after Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny was reported to have been poisoned by the Russian government, which likely was bullshit because it was brought to us by Bellingcat, which Bellingcat funded by Western interests, U.S. CIA cutouts, etc. So maybe I'll do more on that later. But anyway. That aside, during the week after Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny was reported to have been poisoned by the Russian government, The Guardian published 16 separate pieces on the issue, including video reports and opinion pieces. So 16 on that, 2 on the fact that our CIA was planning to assassinate a journalist. Similarly, a Nexus search of British newspapers for the word Navalny brings up 288 results. The same search for Assange between September 26th and October 1st brings up a meager 29 results, one of which was a Patrick Cockburn piece in The Independent. Yeah, Independent often does better things than, say, the BBC. As is typical of stories that embarrass Western intelligence services, independent media provided crucial relief to the backdrop of chilling indifference by our mainstream media. And then they go out to point out Gray Zone's Aaron Mate covering it and having Michael Isikoff on his show. The Gray Zone was the first outlet to provide evidence of a CIA-linked proposal to kidnap or poison Assange in May 2020. And as far as I know, this is the Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting's coverage of the fact that this was Gray Zone, who actually broke this a fucking year ago, over a year ago, is like the only, and Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting is not mainstream, but the only closer to mainstream coverage I've seen of that fact. I've talked about it. Consortium News has talked about it. But even of the tiny number of sources that have covered this Assange story that the CIA was planning to assassinate him, even of those, most of them seem to fail to realize that this quote unquote bombshell actually came out over a year ago in the Gray Zone. Because, I mean, some of them might not know, but also the reason your mainstream outlet, like Guardian, had 2 outlets about the CIA planning to kill Assange, but they're not going to mention the Gray Zone because mainstream media like the Guardian don't want to acknowledge that the Gray Zone is actually a better outlet than their garbage. Guardian, by the way, used to be more legit. It used to be kind of owned. I think it was kind of owned by like a board of governors and things like that. But it was slowly captured, and it now increasingly and almost exclusively does the bidding of kind of Western propaganda. That did not used to be the case. You go back just 5 years, 7 years, and you can see a lot of stuff in the Guardian that embarrassed Western interests and embarrassed the corporate rulers of our system. But no longer, because they made sure to capture the Guardian. It's funded by the likes of Bill Gates nowadays. Consortium News, Fairness, Accuracy, and Reporting also mentions Consortium News covered the Gray Zone story a while back, as did I. While back, Redacted Tonight. See, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting is failing to mention that Redacted Tonight also covered all this shit a year ago, getting it from the Gray Zone, of course. One thing the corporate media cannot be accused of with regards to Assange, however, is inconsistency. After a key witness in the Department of Justice's case against the publisher admitted to providing U.S. prosecution with false testimony, this was like the key witness. All right. I can't pronounce his name, but Sargensen or whatever. No, Thorgensen. Siggy is his shortened first name. He's like a psychopath, and he, or at least sociopath, doesn't know wrong from right, and has admitted that the FBI, that he lied to the FBI. He just told them whatever they wanted him to say so that he could get out of other charges. As Alan McLeod wrote for Fair a while back, the complete uniformity with which corporate media have treated this latest bombshell news raises even more concerns about how fundamentally intertwined and aligned they are with the interests of the U.S. government. Even after it was revealed that the U.S. global security firm that targeted Assange had also spied on journalists at the Washington Post and the New York Times, neither outlet mounted any protest. Keep in mind also that the New York Times, which is Stephen Donziger's home newspaper, because he lives in Manhattan and is now imprisoned in Manhattan, New York Times refuses to cover Stephen Donziger's story. They have not covered his story, despite the fact that he is now one of the most famous political prisoners in the world, second to just a few others like Julian Assange and Leonard Peltier, but there aren't many. Mumia, maybe. There aren't many that are up at the level of Stephen Donziger, and yet New York Times, never heard of him. Unfamiliar. Who? Even though he's been under house arrest in New York City, and he's a human rights lawyer under house arrest for 2 years, now facing 6 months in prison. They have not imprisoned him yet during his appeal, but perhaps Fairness and Accuracy says, perhaps most remarkably, the judge who sentenced Assange, she didn't sentence Assange. She said Assange could not be extradited because of health concerns, that he may kill himself if he were put in the cruel and unusual U.S. prison system. That is the only reason. She agreed with everything the government said. She agreed with this witness who has now said he made up everything that he said. And anyway, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting saying Judge Baritzer relied on a falsified CNN report to justify the CIA's spying operation against Assange. Now, CNN's website contains no reports on the agency's plan to kill or kidnap Assange. Oh, it's fucking incredible. So anyway, that is a little update that you won't hear in your mainstream media because clearly they haven't covered the story at all. So they're not going to cover the fact they're not covering the story. They do not cover that they don't cover stories. I wonder why. Why is that? Our media never seems to do a story on how they've refused to cover something. Interesting. They refuse to cover the fact that they refuse to cover things. But I hope this shows you, again, how fucked up our media is, how much it ignores this stuff. And, you know, I think some would like to argue that, like when the Gray Zone first revealed that Assange, that there'd been a plan to assassinate or kidnap Assange, when they first revealed it over a year ago, I think some would argue, well, the mainstream media can't cover that because that's coming from the Gray Zone. It's coming from a not mainstream source, an unofficial source, because Gray Zone's independent media, not owned by large corporate conglomerates, which is hilarious, of course. Basically, it's the same as Wikipedia. Basically, we can only count as truth something that has been put through the digestive system of our corporate media, which means we can only count as truth something that has been proven to be good propaganda for Western interests. How does that work? So I think some people would like to say that again about this story. Well, it hasn't come from an official source, so mainstream media can't cover it. CNN can't cover it. New York Times can't cover it. But actually, Yahoo News has covered it. So you have at least a couple of mainstream outlets, Yahoo News and The Guardian. You have a couple of mainstream outlets that have covered it. So CNN or these other fucking shit shows, if they wanted to, they could right now go, hey, look at what Yahoo News reported. Look at what Michael Isikoff reported. Look at what The Guardian reported. But they don't want to because Assange embarrasses them in so many ways. He's a better journalist than they ever were. He was a more free and, unrelenting journalist than they ever were or ever will be. He did not give in to Western influence, Western pressure, U.S. and Britain and Australia, his home country. He didn't give in to any of that. And so that makes them look like clowns. It makes them look like fucking fools. So they hate him on that regard, besides all the other reasons that they just want to do what's good for their job. And talking about Assange, not good for their job. Not going to get them the promotion. By the way, if you want to hear my interview with Julian Assange's father from last week, that is at, well, you can get it at several places, but portable.tv. You just scroll down to the Redacted Tonight playlist. Or if you go to radindymedia.com and you can scroll down there. And I think Sheer Post actually just put it up as well. But yeah, you can watch that interview several places. So I hope you'll catch that. My interview with his father, John Shipton, talking about his son and what he thinks the chances are that his son will be freed anytime soon. Okay, guys, that's what I got for today. However, there's a new episode of the Common Censored podcast, so you can listen to that. There's, like I said, interview with Assange's father's out. A new episode of Redacted Tonight, of course, is up. All of that's at radindymedia.com. Please share Rad Indie Media. Make it your daily digital front page. Go there, check out we have everything from the Gray Zone up there. We have everything from Mint Press up there. You're not going to miss any of that. And I don't know if it's sold out yet, but I have a show in Washington, D.C. It's actually Stand Up for Assange. Not sure if you've heard of this fellow, Julian Assange. It's put together by Randy Credico. It's called Stand Up for Assange, and the money's going to help him out or his legal fund or whatever Randy's arranging. And it's me. It's Randy Credico. It's probably Naomi Caravani if she can work out her schedule. Jafar Khan, Max Blumenthal, John Kariakou. We're all going to be there. And it's for more details, you can go to leecamp.com, click on the schedule tab. I don't know. I know the New York show sold out. I don't know if the DC show sold out. And I know that Randy Credico is working on live streaming it all. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we'll see. We'll keep rooting for it. If it does happen, I'll put it on my site and everything else. But all right, guys, if you donated, all the donations in the super chat on YouTube go to people who are struggling. Same with Venmo at Lee Camp. All donations go to people who need some help right now. And if you want to support my stuff, liberapay.com/Lee Camp. But all right, keep fighting.